Now, over the past few days, many leading figures in Israel's business and financial community have spoken out against the government's planned judicial reforms, expressing concerns that shifting power away from the courts and towards the political sphere risks undermining confidence by foreign investors in the stability of the economy. After letters of warning from CEOs and economists, a demonstration by tech workers, and criticism from the Bank of Israel Governor Amir Yaron and two of his predecessors, Prime Minister Netanyahu responded tonight at a press briefing with other ministers. Here's some of what he and Foreign Minister Eli Cohen had to say.
In recent days, I've been hearing concerns about the impact of the judicial reforms on our economic resilience. And here I want to set things straight. The truth is just the opposite. Our moves to strengthen democracy in Israel will not only not harm the economy, they will strengthen it. They will return Israel to the legal status of most of the world's leading democracies, back to where it was for 50 years.
During the last few weeks, I talked and met with dozens of foreign ministers and heads of state. I participated in the economic summit in Davos. In none of the meetings was the legal reform and its consequences for the economy even hinted at. The opposite is correct. They all emphasized to me that the desire to strengthen cooperation with Israel in the economy and in investments.
Joining us now with more is our political and international affairs correspondent, Batya Leventhal. And Batya, a prime-time press briefing broadcast live for the Prime Minister, these other ministers. Let's talk about why Benjamin Netanyahu felt he had to get this statement out today.
It's interesting that you mentioned that of why he had to get his statement out today. This has been something that's been going on for weeks. We've been reporting here at I-24 News on the protests going on about the override clause and the judicial reforms. Why today? And I think that really just goes to show where the tipping point really was, and that is when politics gets intertwined with economics. When the economics and senior economic figures actually reached out to Benjamin Netanyahu, wrote to him and said, we are concerned that the judicial overhaul is going to have far-reaching implications on the economy. It's going to stop investors from coming to Israel and give them sort of a fear, or like this sort of fear-mongering of wanting to invest in Israel. It's going to drop our credit rating, and more so than that, it could possibly have far-reaching implications for businesses here on the ground that have been trying to make such a big recovery after COVID. It could possibly end up having the risk of a brain drain where people end up moving outside of Israel to avoid having their democracy or at least their rights infringed upon. So I think this really just goes to show that once that happened, Benjamin Netanyahu felt the need to address the public, because this really transpired over not just the societal and the cultural norms that it could have implications on, but more so than that on the economic part of this. Israel's an expensive country to live, no doubt. The cost of living is a crisis that is still trying to be at least brought in and kept a little bit more under wraps. But for the time being, it's likely that the lines between politics and economics are so blurred that he really felt the need to have to stress that this was not necessarily just a political issue, but it won't impact the economy.
Well, I do have to know, Benjamin Netanyahu, one of the more economically savvy of Israeli politicians. Some argue he's one of the most successful finance ministers in Israel. And his argument, you said I was wrong on the so-called tsunami, diplomatic tsunami that would come if we didn't reach an agreement with the Palestinians. And again, this is crying wolf against policies that he thinks will eventually liberate the economy.
And more so than that, I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, time and time again, he's known as being a brilliant orator. This was very much a matter of trying to calm the public and make sure that they know that, as you mentioned, not only did he have a background in it, but that he's really got the reins on the economy, that nothing is going to happen. And that, in fact, not only will nothing happen in the negative, but it's going to strengthen democracy, and it's going to strengthen the economy, and it's going to strengthen the fact that there has to be arguments being said for both sides, and that his government...
Right, the argument that some court decisions have held up the economy, over regulation, legal issues.
Using examples, providing examples, really trying to calm the public in the sense of this is not going to impact, but going one step further and saying that there is going to be this judicial overall. It's not a matter of when, if, but rather when.
All right, but of course, when the Bank of Israel, the governor of the Bank of Israel, and some people felt, discussed his comments, whether he should have spoken out so strongly, but certainly that is a voice. When the country's central banker speaks, you have to listen. Yes, Batya Leventhal, thank you for that.